Call a meeting to order Wednesday, April 16th, 10:01 a.m. Would ask that everyone please stand for a moment of silent meditation and remain standing for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Diane.
Today for consent and approval, we have 8 listings, 8 exonerations, $3,283.44 for tax years 2012 and 2013. Fiduciary matters ordered of April 16. First quarterly report submitted by Lindsay Crane and George Armistead, Fiduciary Commissioners. And as a side issue, there's also the consideration of the Arthur Scotchell estate, which you can deal with separately. Minutes of March 19. Vouchers, General County Fund, $148,688.93. General County Fund with the purchasing card, $4,902.38. Coal Severance Fund, $12,934.87. Mason-Dixon Park, $134.90. Assessor's Valuation Fund, $1,953.90. 911 cash, $12,187.89. Law Enforcement Forfeiture, $2,500. Morgantown Industrial Park, $7,012.13 for a total of $190,315. Budget revisions, just changing a line item for the road repair fund, and the extension office also has budget revisions, just moving money from travel into dues, utilities, and training.
Move for approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We want to go back to the fiduciary matter concerning the Arthur Scotchell estate. Do you want to hear any comments on this before?
Well, we've got a lot of written documents. First, why don't we identify who's here on this issue?
Okay, if you would, please stand, state your name and address, and if you're here regarding the Arthur Scotchell estate, want to speak, let us know that. Yes, sir.
I'm Matthew Yanni. I'm the attorney for Louis Scotchell Sr. and his children. I live in Martinsburg, West Virginia, 211 1/2 West Burke Street. So I'm here for this matter, and I would like to address the commissioners. Louis Scotchell is here, Sr., his son Louis Scotchell, Jr., Artie Scotchell, that's Arthur C. Scotchell, and also Larry Starcher is here to speak to various matters concerning this estate administration, if the commissioners would like to hear from him as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here to speak?
Keith Pappas, I'm the present administrator CTA for the estate that was appointed in April 28, 2010 by your commission.
Okay.
And Philip Negra, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney, formed on behalf of the County Commission. I've been requested to show up on this matter.
We
Okay.
appreciate that.
Thank
You're
you.
quite welcome.
Go ahead, give them a
Okay.
chance.
Yeah, I guess this is an application by Mr. Scotchell to change the executor. We I'll let him go ahead and speak to
Okay.
that matter, and then wait for get responses.
Yeah, I would ask that you try to confine your comments, each individual, to at least 5 minutes. If you need longer, let us know, but we want to be as brief and concise and to the point as possible. Why don't we start off with Mr. Scotchell's representatives that are here would like to speak. You're his attorney, so we'll call on you first.
Yes, thank you. My name's Matthew Yanni. I've been representing Louis Scotchell Sr. and his children. Basically, I started off in a will contest. What we're here today for is to determine if the memorandum agreement that was signed to remove John C. Scotchell as executor should control, or if the 2005 will of Arthur P. Scotchell should control. Now, There used to be a 2006 will, and that will has since been invalidated as the product of undue influence. That will named John C. Scotchell, Jr., the attorney, as the executor, but as of now, that will is null and void. So we're dealing with the memorandum agreement in the 2005 will. What this county commission should consider is the wishes of Arthur P. Scotchell, who is the deceased, whose estate we are here trying to administer, and also what's in the best interest of the estate. Let me just take you through the past, present, and future of this estate. The past of this estate is that beginning in 2001, Arthur P. Scotchell began to develop his estate and began to plan a transition of his estate. He began to see that the end of his life was coming, and he was looking for someone who could take over his estate and run his estate and help him manage his financial affairs until the end of his life. In 2001, he drafted one of many wills that he drafted, but that will named the attorney that drafted the will and also Lewis Scotchell as the executors of that estate. And then in 2004, he drafted a new will and he named the executor as Lewis Scotchell. In 2005, another will naming the executor as Lewis Scotchell. And then in 2006, we see a difference where he named John C. Scotchell as the executor, but that will has been invalidated. Also in 2005, Arthur P. Scotchell gave Lewis Scotchell the power to run all of his business affairs. And Lewis Scotchell ran his business affairs basically until John Scotchell convinced Arthur Scotchell that Lou was stealing from him. At that time, Lou was removed, John came into the picture, but at the end of Arthur's life, he realized that Lou was not stealing from him. He began to try to collect the money that John had actually stolen from him, and Lou was running Art's businesses and affairs basically at his death. So that's where we were, and that's basically how we got here. But at the end of Art's life, the controlling will was this 2006 will. John C. Scotchell was the executor, and Lewis and his children wanted to remove John because they felt that he had procured that will by undue influence and he was not going to administer the estate properly. He was going to use the estate in his own interests. And so they filed the will contest, and they also filed another action to remove John. Now that action resulted in Keith becoming basically the administrator CTA. And Keith originally was going to allow Lou to continue to manage the estate, and Keith was going to focus on the legal issues. He was going to make sure that all the accountings were in order. He was going to investigate the charges of undue influence. Fast forward basically to the present, and we know what we know now, that Keith spent over $200,000 of the estate's money paying himself and other attorneys to investigate this and defend basically this 2006 will. He decided that the 2006 will was the correct will. He used the estate's money to pay himself and these other attorneys to prevent Lewis and his children from recovering what was rightfully theirs under the 2005 will. As far as the future, what we have is Lewis Scotchell, who was groomed by his uncle to manage his affairs and would like to end all of the litigation surrounding the estate. The reason we're in litigation surrounding the estate, and we still have two, well, really there's just one lawsuit that still remains outside of this will contest. But
What is that one?
so I'll tell you right now.
Okay.
It's a suit in front of Judge Claudius that deals with the proceeds of this 417 Holland Avenue. What happened was the estate needed money. So Keith and Lou and the other parties in the estate decided that Lou would try to get money to buy some debt that 417 Holland Avenue. Lou obtained a loan from his mother to purchase the debt, and at that time he took over the debt and sort of acted as the bank to collect the payments on this loan. And at that time he and his family began work to improve these properties that were in the estate at the time. All the properties except one have since been sold. But he took on the debt, he began to work for the estate, and once this property, 417 Holland Avenue, was sold, Lou was never repaid the money that he was owed by Mr. Pappas, because Mr. Pappas asserted that Lou had already been paid that money and that he was not owed any money. So fast forward 3 years later, and his mother's estate has still never been repaid, that $60,000 that she loaned her son to purchase the debt, and so she sues Lou. Lou, in turn, sues Keith to try to get him to release that money. And so that's other than this will contest, which has already been resolved by jury trial, that's the only outstanding legal issue that remains. Now, for the future of this estate, Lewis basically desires to resolve this last piece of litigation. If he becomes the executor, he will have access to the money that he's rightfully owed. He can pay off his mother's debt, and basically there will just be one piece of property left, which they call the farm. At that point, he would like to buy out. There's just one other remaining heir other than he and his family, which is Arthur P. Scotchell's wife. Her name's Doris Scotchell. He would like to refinance the farm and buy out Doris Scotchell's interest, and then everything will be resolved. That's sort of option A, if he is allowed to become the executor. Option B is we'll continue with Mr. Pappas. We will get basically the will go up before the West Virginia Supreme Court because they believe that something was wrong with the trial. Keith will spend the estate's money to pay himself and to pay other attorneys to continue to say that this 2006 will was the proper will and that Lou should be cut out of the estate. And furthermore, he will continue to refuse to pay Lou the money that he's owed in this other piece of litigation involving his mom, and ultimately all of the estate's assets will be consumed to go to Mr. Pappas and his attorney. So those, I think, are the two options before this county commission, and based upon Lou's desire to see that the heirs receive what's rightfully theirs and not have everything consumed in litigation, and based upon Arthur P. Scotchell's wishes, who basically are the reason that we're here, to honor his wish and to allow his executor to serve unless there's a valid reason his executor shouldn't, both dictate that Lewis Allen Scotchell should be made the executor.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Where does Patricia Mitchell, daughter of Doris Scotchell, come in this whole?
She has a power of attorney.
She has power of attorney.
Yes, so Doris Scotchell is currently ill.
I know, but where does she involve in this whole?
So I'm telling you, Doris Scotchell's ill, and so Patty Mitchell is basically helping watch her mother.
Gotcha. Okay.
And with that, I just say that Lewis is here if you have any questions for him about the administration of the estate. Larry Starcher is here, and he can speak to what's happened with the estate and Lou's qualifications to serve as executor. And of course, Mr. Pappas is here with his own opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Scotchell, do you have any comments you want to make?
Just one. I believe that most of the matters before you have been addressed by my attorney. But I do want to say that it seemed like from the beginning of this whole ordeal that I was a good person to come and finance every trouble that my uncle's estate was involved in when John Scotchell was the administrator of this estate. I financed to make sure that this estate stayed intact by buying out the deed of trust for 417 Holland Avenue. I went to Citizens Bank and paid all up to date all the mortgage payments that were due there that John Scotchell failed to pay during this administration. I took over for a couple months whenever Mr. Pappas was appointed to try to get my uncle's rental properties back into tax so that they would all be properly rented and the monies would come in. At the time of my uncle's death, we were taking in over $7,000 a month. And there was a potential for over $10,000 a month, which would have been able to keep this estate intact until that will contest would have been resolved one way or the other. And that's one of the things that I think that needs to be pointed out, that then I become a villain in Mr. Pappas's eyes of a demise that I don't understand, and I wish he would address it and point out the facts as which he's trying to accuse me of. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to ask him ask one question, and then what I'd like to do is hear from Mr. Pappas.
Yes.
And once we hear the counter argument, then I'd like to hear from Justice Sturgeon.
Okay.
Is there any dispute on the properties that was sold in terms of whether they should have been sold or not been sold?
Yes, sir, there was. We disputed that fact from the very get-go whenever he failed to show us proper appraisals to the property and a total value and assets of what this administration failed to do from the get-go to show what this estate was worth, so that I could have bought it out. I was guaranteed by Mr. Pappas a promise that he made to us before he was assigned as administrator to give me first right of refusal. And by that, I thought he was going to get everything appraised, and the buyout would have been done right then and there.
Okay, let me ask you a follow-up question that's given your answer. Are there any question as to whether these sales were arm's length transactions or not?
I don't understand.
You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Were these legitimate on-the-market sales, or
Well,
is there any question as to the validity of the sales themselves?
Our question basically has to do with, were the properties appraised properly, and were they advertised? And we believe...
That's what I mean by fair market offer.
Right. So
Is it a fair market offer? Were they appraised? Were they offered on the fair market, and there was no undue influence? I want to know what your allegation is.
Well, we have concerns on both fronts that,
Okay.
for one...
That's all I need.
Okay.
That's all I need. I just wanted to know. I don't need all the details,
Okay.
because
Yes,
those
sir.
things have to be fought out in the circuit court. I just want to know. Okay, now I'd like to hear from Mr. Pappas.
Mr. Pappas?
Well, I'll work backwards. The property was listed with KLM Real Estate in June 2010, right after my appointment. I retrieved appraisals for the property. I shared them with Lou Scotchell. He was the family spokesperson. I asked the realtor to give me the most optimistic appraisals. I wanted to share them with potential buyers to have a starting point in negotiation of sale. Every time an offer came in, I sent it to Lou. The kids saw it by email. Lou said it was too much. I'm not interested in matching it. Every contract I executed on behalf of the estate took over 90, 120 days to close. Every contract had a provision that, a contingency provision that if any heir would want to object to the contract or the sale price or anything about the individual that I was selling to, which was Eric Dalton Properties LLC. I wasn't really familiar with him. KLM introduced me to him. He was the only one with the, these properties would not qualify for loans. They were so distressed. He was the only one with individual with equity and other collateral. He had $1 million asset free and clear that he pledged for the purposes of buying this property.
Who was that?
Eric Dalton Properties LLC. Eric Dalton, the old West Virginia mountaineer.
Yeah, okay.
Again, the contracts had an out. If they wanted to object, they could have taken it to George Armistead, the fiduciary commissioner. He'd have last say on the sale. That contingency lasted to the time of closing. No one objected. No one filed anything. Nobody had anything to say about it back then. Here we are almost 4 years later, 4.5 years later, and I'm hearing all this. The allegation that there's $200,000 expended from the estate over litigation and my fees is a gross exaggeration. Attorney fees are maybe $40,000, $50,000. I've been paid maybe $60,000, $70,000 in 4 years. Now, we've been billing, and the attorneys have been billing. They're not fully paid, nor am I. Holland Avenue, Lou took that asset over sometime in August of 2009. I wasn't in the picture yet. I had no arrangements with him about his accepting rents there. There was another fiduciary acting at the time. You go back to when the 2005 will, when Lou first tried to have himself appointed, Lou knew that there was another 2006 will in existence. He knew that it was prepared by Dan Oliver. Lou had in his possession the 2005 will. It was never in the family file, and he ran down there and he had himself appointed. Then they removed him. My comments to the commission about questionable activity is even after they told him to return the letters of administration, he continued to write checks to himself. He did it while his uncle was sick. He did it in January, February, clear through April of that year. I don't know what, $13,000, $14,000. I gave you a schedule of them. I just thought it was inappropriate. There's a widow that owns on half of this estate. She owns it right out. Now, there was a time where I could have made a disbursement to her or a distribution to her of her half interest. She chose to continue to let me manage her interest in the estate, half of the stock, half the interest in the personal property, these sort of things, and she didn't get her interest sectioned off. She's not well. Her daughter's her spokesperson, and they both had confidence in me to try to guide this estate through all the litigation, all but filed by Lou Scotchwell and his kids, 3 civil suits total, and then we still have the Groves suit pending. Groves' case started from where Lou borrowed money from his mother. It didn't involve me. That choice was made long before I became a fiduciary, I think as early in spring of 2009, and he hasn't repaid her back. So his stepfather has sued him, the estate has sued him, and so now if he becomes a fiduciary of this estate, he's also the plaintiff in a suit where he's brought us in as a third-party defendant, making a claim against the state for money owed to him.
I'm sorry, Keith, you lost me there.
I did. I might be lost myself. It's a lot going on.
You're saying that he borrowed money from his mother to deal with the Holland Avenue property.
That's correct.
And that his mother
She passed away.
is not in this now,
No,
right?
just her estate.
She passed away, Ellen.
Okay, she passed away. All right, but she didn't take under this estate, did she?
No, she's not an heir.
Okay, so she's not an heir.
No.
So why then how is him being the executor of this estate have any effect on that lawsuit?
Because he's a defendant in that lawsuit, and he's also a third-party plaintiff because he's brought us in as a third-party defendant. He's turned around in that lawsuit and sued the estate, and he sued Eric Dalton Properties. Now, Eric is...
And why did he sue? Why did he do that? I'm confused.
Well, it's a convoluted theory that they brought in Eric Dalton, and the judge dismissed him as a defendant after expenditures of much money. This isn't just me spending money on attorneys. Eric's in there. He's got a general warranty deed. He makes a claim against the estate that we're not protecting him or the title of the property he bought. Now, so this would make Lou a plaintiff and the estate a defendant, where he's claiming money under the note that he has, okay, with his mother, because he bought another note. He bought a note on.
It's convoluted, all right. Go ahead.
Well, he bought a note from Huntington Bank that Westover Realty Company, that Art Scotchwell for behalf of Westover Realty Company, had given to Huntington Bank, which I think Lou Scotchwell paid $57,000 for. I think we talked about it in the last commissioners meeting. I believe Commissioner Bartolo asked what the balance might be due on it. We thought it was $64,000 absent any contribution or debt service.
If we may, a lot of these issues, I just want to get a flavor. A lot of these issues belong in circuit court, as you well know. Can you address 2 things for me? Number one, based on your writings, you believe that it's in the best interest of the estate and the other heirs that you continue, and you also allege that Lou Scotchwell is not a proper party or competent party to do this. Can you address those issues specifically, and then we can move on?
I can. All I wanted to do was follow a report with the county commission, setting forth some observations of mine. The qualifications have to do mainly with conflict of interest. The other information I provided the county is his refusal to account. He was ordered to account in what was it, May or June. I think I put an order in the record. He refused to. The allegations that I want to let him manage the estate is somewhat contrived. The deal was I didn't have the ability or the time to collect rent from the tenants involved. Lou seemed to be familiar with them. I wanted him to go in the field, collect the rents, bring it in, they pay in cash. The problem was immediately they didn't trust him. They came in personally to my office, they invaded my office day and night, complaints about the property, these sort of things. So that I couldn't get him to manage. Okay, back to your question. The other qualifications I referenced, I had a list of them, is he's got possession of a trailer that was subject matter of 1 lawsuit. He's not accounted to us for it. He's not shown us any kind of documentation that it's titled to him or a bill of sale from Art Scotchwell. We've got issues with the monies taken from Holland Avenue, how he's paid himself, who he's paid, no accounting for almost 3 years. after that order was entered. I have a problem with that. I would have liked to have sat down and worked with him. He'd give me his information and we could see what occurred. 3 years later, we see that he's paying himself for a lot of different things.
Okay, well, we've got the history on that. Is there any other reason why he's not qualified to administer this estate?
Just basically conflicts of interest and the prior activities of the state, starting from the time that he ran down and put the 2005 will of record when he knew there was a 2006 will of record. He doesn't care about what is proper procedure or law. He hasn't been accountable.
Okay, one more thing before we move on. The allegation about the appeal and financing the appeal. Yeah, are you appealing the underlying case?
I believe that the Martin Sheehan is, we're not spending money on appeal.
Okay. Is there any estate money being?
No. And I had an understanding with Lou and his kids that I would sit back in this litigation and let he and John go at it. And next thing I know, at every turn, they were taking a swipe and trying to get Lou into the position of fiduciary. I don't know how many times this commission and prior sat here and watched Lou approach you, wanted to get me removed and him reappointed. I mean, even as recent as here a couple of months ago before the litigation was over. What was that, in December? And when you find yourself being, I guess, an adversary in a proceeding where you want to stay neutral and not spend money, you know, Judge Claude just said you better engage counsel, and so we had to at some point.
Okay,
I found
appreciate it.
I found petitions being filed. I wasn't getting notice of it about me acting as fiduciary. I'm not insisting I stay on. I just like to see an orderly transition between me and someone else with, that's competent, with integrity, that's disinterested in the estate. I mean, for me to resign, and if it promotes harmony, that's fine, but I think you need to find somebody that's going to please everybody. And as long as Lou and his kids want their way, I don't think it's ever going to work. They just need to understand that there's a way to go about selling properties, there's a way to go about managing the estate, and it's not anything to do on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from Justice
I have just one more comment about the appraisals. There was other banks involved. They're secured parties. As each asset was sold, that bank internally did its own appraisal and its own evaluation of what that property should sell for. I cannot just sell property when there's secured parties, and that's Citizens Bank of Morgantown. There's multiple sets of appraisals out there that he's aware of, he's had copies of, and for him to sit here and say, I didn't have it appraised, well, there is an appraisal on record. Banks had properties appraised. We sold them for the best price I could possibly get.
Okay, thank you. Justice Starcher, do you have
Well,
comment?
I want to speak to what Keith
He
said
needs to
there.
identify himself for the
Judge-
record.
Larry Sargent. Art Scotchell was a friend of mine. I probably know more about Art Scotchell's wills than maybe anybody in this room, except one or two by now. Art always wanted me to write him a will, and I'd say, I can't do it, I'm a judge, can't practice law. And so we found wills other ways. Lou didn't just run down and jump in and put a will on record when he knew there was another will there. That's a plain falsehood. Lou thought, as I thought, that Art Scotchell tore up John's will because that's what we were told by Art all the time. I heard Art Scotchell say, John has nothing in this for the last 5 or 6 years of his life, it was. Lou's will is a proper will. I question whether Keith Pappas has any standing to stand here and make any argument at all, because his position as an administrator of this evaporated. It went away when the court said, when the jury said, that will was made under duress and is invalid and null and void. And I noticed when he sent the exhibit in there, he didn't include the whole order of the court on the jury verdict. He left out the part that talked about the will being totally invalid. He just left that page out for some reason. A jury of 6 people decided that will, 2006 will, was made under duress. People that testified were lawyers, myself, Dr. Biondo, Dr. Gutierrez, multiple people, and it was clear if you heard the facts of the case. In fact, the 2 of the witnesses that was called by the other side sounded more like witnesses for Louis Scotchell's side, if you want to call it that. The other point I would make, one other point I would make is that if Keith isn't ordered to turn over the books, that should be the only role he plays at this time. with whatever is left of that will, of that estate, then it's going to drag out, and heaven knows how much longer that will take. Louis is quite capable of running businesses. Now, another lawyer party in this matter told me that he's not capable, I can't work with him, etc. Well, I would say he doesn't get to choose. The fiduciary commissioner doesn't get to choose the executor of people's wills. He tries to work with them and then finds out whether he can work with them once they start functioning. And I would say that Louis probably ran Art's businesses pretty much the way Art ran them. Not the way I would run them, but I would say pretty much the way lots of people run businesses. I think clearly if the person that has a right to appeal this would probably be John Scotchwell, because he was a named executor in the will that fell as a result of the jury trial. I think it's clear. I think the thing needs to be moved forward.
Okay, thank you.
George Armistead was here. Did he have anything he wanted to add?
George, did you have anything?
I think you're all doing a great job.
You want to state your name and address for the record, please?
George Armistead, 168 Chancery Road. I'm fiduciary commissioner in this matter. Does the commission, people have talked about my powers in this case. My only powers are to recommend orders for this commission to consider and to sign. I have no judicial capacity at all. I'll hold some hearings and take some evidence and make a record there so it can be appealed. But if the commission has a question, I'd be glad to answer.
Do you have any recommendation on this?
I didn't know the underlying case had been appealed.
It
hasn't been?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, I've had a lot of hearings with the Scotchwell family in here. Lou has filed a petition for different things, and I've told him I didn't think this case involves a lot of legal issues, and I've asked Lou to get some help if he wanted to get involved with this. He's got there's an elective share determination, and Lou's got some claims against the estate which could affect the elective share. The elective share for the widow is based upon the entire estate, not just the probate estate that goes through the will. If there's joint property, right of survivorship, things like that, that operates outside the will. If there's $6 million non-probate estate, the widow wouldn't have any claim against this estate because it's valued at less than $500,000, I think. So there's an elective share determination has to be made before any distributions can be made. Lou's got claims against the estate. He's got a claim against that elective share potentially. I don't know. There's the new will that, not the new will, but the will that appoints Lou as administrator has some conflicts in it, potentially, that could be litigated. They need to be looked at legally by his representative. He hasn't had one yet, and I've talked to him several times about getting one. I understand Matthew Yanni is representing here. They have not filed anything in front of me to consider anything. I've talked to Justice Starcher, who came to my office and talked a little bit about this thing.
I never came to your office to talk about this, George. I came to your office with your wife because she was serving as my court reporter one morning, and as I got ready to leave, you said, "Hey, Judd, hey, Larry,
and I requested,
you want to make some money?"
I requested.
And I said no.
He knew Art. I knew that. I wanted to see if he would be in a position where he could help Lou administer this estate.
Well, let's ask that question. You be willing to be executor, administrator?
Don't you, Judge?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to ask a question, so that takes that. What else you got, George?
Okay. Lou still needs some help.
Yeah.
I've told his family that. I've told Lou that. He's got, and he's in a conflict against the estate, which he wants to administer. He's got a number of claims against the estate. The will provides that after the elective share, he and his family, essentially, it doesn't read this way, but the effect is they split it up in fives. Lou's got a fifth of that remaining part, and each one of his 4 children has a fifth of that remaining part. So there's a lot of built-in conflicts here that I don't think makes him an appropriate person because of these conflicts and because of legal issues involved with this, make him an appropriate person to be the administrator. without bond, which is what
All
the
right,
will,
thank you.
yeah.
Since they're, we can ask Phil, if he, but since they are the petitioner, we ought to ask them for the final sum up if they want to respond to anything. Phil, do you have anything?
The only thing, sitting here with what little I know about this whole case, it appears that there is going back and forth, two sides to the whole story, and there appears to be really lots of conflicts regarding the appointment of one person over another. And there is also the appearance, or at least the probability that there could be further litigation. And I mean, in all honesty, if that is the potential that this estate is facing towards, what I would suggest is that the commission, until all these underlying cases are resolved, appoint the sheriff as curator for the estate to stop the dissipating of all of these assets until there is something done and say, hey, this will is go, this will has been resolved and the appeal period has expired, whatever, and there's some type of finality as to the conflicting interest, and like I said, at that point in time, until that point in time, unless Justice Starcher wants to come forward.
I think he's a great candidate. I know how well he knew Art.
Because otherwise, if that's not the case, and we don't have any agreement, then I suggest that the sheriff be appointed as curator.
Yes, sir.
I'm willing to do it pro bono.
Good deal. And I have no problem with that.
That's a tremendous solution.
It is. You know, I can't help but have to make one comment here. If I'm interpreting all the documentation, is we have a situation here with the Scotchell family being heirs. And the only other heirs are John Scotchell, who's in a state of bankruptcy, who's not really going to get anything from the estate, and his wife Doris, whose daughter now is power of attorney, who has sent us correspondence saying that Lou Scotchell should be the executor. And there's all this conflict coming from sources of legal kinds of interpretation and application, not from heirs or benefit to heirs. And I think the point that Mr. Magro makes is well taken. Something needs to be put in place to stop the dissipation of this estate. And the curator seems to be the appropriate solution for this. And Justice Starcher, certainly, I don't know if we could find a better person to do this.
Phil, how would that work? I'll tell you what my motions are. Well, does the petitioning party have any urgent thing they want to say for 30 seconds? Okay. If not, Phil, this was my thought on reading this stuff, was that we point the sheriff as curator, relieve Keith, so Keith has someplace to give the information and pass the information and all, because he's willing to walk away from this thing, and I understand he's trying to keep neutral and he wasn't able to. And then follow up with the sheriff giving it to Justice Starcher. Do we do that in two separate actions, or how do we do that?
I don't know that you need to do anything because, again, if you've got Justice Starcher saying that he will be appointed and everybody's in agreement that that would be done, then I mean you would only pass the reins from Keith to Justice Starcher.
And not have to involve the sheriff?
You don't need, at that point in time, you don't need to involve the sheriff.
And everybody doesn't need to agree, they may well, but it's this commission's order that needs.
So it doesn't even involve the sheriff? And then if there's anything to all these allegations of wrongdoing, then Justice Starcher, you would be the one that would be in a position to proceed on that, is that correct?
Proceed, and if the complaint's filed, we'd go to the fiduciary commission.
Fiduciary.
Try to resolve them as we move down the path.
Okay. I move that we Lou, you got something really compelling, 15 seconds.
I just wanted to clarify something. You said Patty Mitchell wanted me appointed
No,
or not?
We have a correspondence from her.
didn't want it.
It's asking that
Not to.
Keith remain.
Keith remain.
Keith.
Oh, I thought you.
No, Keith remain.
That's
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to clarify.
Okay.
I move that we release Keith Pappas from his responsibilities under this, and he turns over all books and accountings to Justice Larry Starcher, and appoint him as the new administrator, CBA, CTA,
Without bond, I believe.
without bond.
And Mr. Pappas have to make a final count, you know. submit-
That's what I said, didn't I?
I'd have 30 days. make my
30
final
days, 30 days.
count.
We'll give him 30 days to make his final accounting and turn it over to Justice Starcher.
I strongly support, second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
We're moving forward.
Okay.
A question of the commission. Now, is, I don't know, and I've heard different things. Is the litigation upstairs, has it been appealed?
It had not, last time I checked, you know, they have 30 days to file the notice of intent to appeal. The order was signed on the 8th, I believe it was, of April, so they still have some days left. And then they have another 3 months after that, in addition to that month.
So Justice Starcher's clear, he's being appointed as the administrator CTA of the Arthur V. Scotch Estate.
That's correct.
Not as curator.
We may just.
Not as curator,
No,
not as curator.
That's exactly correct.
No, I would put the sheriff in as curator, and that was what I was leaning
Just have to
until
provide some time to see
we got someone that I think can resolve this for everyone. Justice Starcher, I want to thank you for doing this. You saved us a lot of more hearings.
I created some for me. Got you.
Thanks a lot, Larry.
Thank you very much.
Thank everyone for your cooperation, and we got through this without any
Glad to see we
major
have a
kind of.
hardworking county commission.
Thank
Makes my
you.
heart good to see you work.
Thank you.
Now we're gonna make you scoop.
Moving on. Renetta, your turn.
Why don't you give us a minute to clear out here?
Sure.
So we won't disrupt the meeting any more than we already have. Doesn't you know I was here?
There.
What notepad? Well, you know I was here.
I know, but I love to have your signature. Thank you.
Good morning.
I want this back to.
We have some different items for you to approve today. Let's get the reimbursements out of the way first. Okay, first we have a Governor's Community Participation Grant Program request for reimbursement for Arts Monongalia, $3,733.39. I'm sorry, that's not right. It's $1,500. And this is for the period of 8/24/13 through 4/10/14.
Move for approval.
I got more.
Oh, well, we don't, okay, I didn't
No.
know if you do each one individually.
We'll do the reimbursements as a group and then
Okay.
everything else
Group.
separate.
Okay.
DUI grant for March 2014, $10,181.74. The JABG grant for MAYSP, February of 2014, $1,520.02. The BOCA grant for March 2014, $4,029.45. And the Emergency Solutions Grant Program for RDVIC and Caritas House for the total amount of $2,930.50 for the month of March. That's all the reimbursements that I
Move
have.
for approval of reimbursements.
I'll second it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Can I get you to use my blue pen?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, first of all, I have a memorandum of understanding between the Mon County Drug Court and the Quinn Curtis Center of the Life Sciences Building, West Virginia Psychology Department. This is for anger management, psychological testing that they are requesting to be contracted through the Quinn Curtis Center for Day Report Center participants, or I'm sorry, drug court participants.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, we had some revisions to the Victims of Crime Act 2014 grant application, and we're just asking for the commission to affirm those changes and resubmit the application.
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, we received a grant contract for the Governor's Community Participation Grant Program for Camp Muffley for improvements to the construction, for improvements of the park in itself. This actually says dining hall, which has already been constructed. That's how far behind they are. So we'll work with Bobby on getting some invoices for that so we can submit for reimbursement. There's a resolution to accompany the contract, and I'll read that. Be it resolved that the Monongalia County Commission hereby authorizes the Honorable L.W. Bartolo, President of the Monongalia County Commission, to act on its behalf by signing the contract for the West Virginia Development Office in order to receive and administer grant funds pursuant to the provisions of the Community Participation Grant Program. Funds in the amount of $3,000 are requested for improvements at Camp Muffley.
Move to approve the resolution as read.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, I have two grant applications, and then we're done.
Do I need to sign this? I already
Yes,
signed
yeah,
this.
you did. Two grant applications. Both of these are for the Community Participation Grant Program. One is for Mon County EMS, and the other is for the West Virginia WVU Center for Excellence in Disabilities. Those are two grant applications, and I have a resolution. Whereas Governor's Community Participation Grant Program funding was set aside by the West Virginia Legislature for the County of Monongalia to undertake for the WVU Center for Excellence in Disabilities in the amount of $5,200, and for the Monongalia County Emergency Medical Services in the amount of $9,000. And whereas the County of Monongalia has applied for funding through the West Virginia Development Office, and whereas the Governor's Community Participation Grant Program requires that a local government unit enter into a contractual agreement with the West Virginia Development Office to receive and administer grant funds. Now therefore be it resolved by the Commission of the County of Monongalia, West Virginia, that the President is hereby authorized to execute said agreement and any other necessary documents on behalf of the Commission, and that he be empowered to sign the contract and any agreement necessary to obtain these funds.
Move to approve the resolution as read.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Do I need to sign those resolutions?
Carrie has to sign.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Proclamation, Childhood Cancer Awareness Week. Do we have anyone here for that?
Actually, there's not anyone here today that could make it.
So are we going to do this, or?
Yes.
Okay. You want to read it?
Certainly.
I knew you would.
Since you all did. Proclamation. Whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection report cancer is the leading cause of death by disease among U.S. children between infancy and age 15. This tragic disease is detected in nearly 15,000 of our country's young people each and every year. And whereas 1 in 5 of our nation's children loses his or her battle with cancer, many infants, children, and teens will suffer from long-term effects of comprehensive treatment, including secondary cancers. And whereas founded 20 years ago by Stephen Firestein, a member of the philanthropic Max Factor family, the American Cancer Fund for Children Incorporated and Kids Cancer Connection Incorporated are dedicated to helping these children and their families. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection provide a variety of vital patient psychosocial services to children undergoing cancer treatment at WVU Children's Hospital Morgantown, CAMA Women's and Children's Hospital in Charleston, as well as participating hospitals throughout the country, thereby enhancing the quality of life for these children and their families. And whereas the American Cancer Fund for Children and Kids Cancer Connection also sponsor nationwide Courageous Kid Recognition Award ceremonies and hospital celebrations in honor of a child's determination and bravery to fight the battle against childhood cancer. Now therefore, the Monongalia County Commission does hereby proclaim April 20th through 26th as Childhood Cancer Awareness Week in Monongalia County, and urge all citizens to be especially aware of children everywhere suffering from this terrible disease.
Move to approve the proclamation as read.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mike Wolf.
This is National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. 911 centers across the U.S. are celebrating the work that their telecommunicators do. And I'll read the proclamation real quick for you, and then I have a statistical update from our counts from last year. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from the citizens who telephone the Monongalia County Emergency Centralized Communications Agency, E911 Center, and whereas public safety dispatchers are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety dispatchers are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and EMS personnel by providing and monitoring their activities by radio, providing them with information and ensuring safety. And whereas public safety dispatchers and MECA E911 have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during their performance of their job in this past year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Monongalia County Commission declares the week of April 13th through the 19th, 2014 to be National Telecommunicators Week in Monongalia County in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our county and citizens safe.
Move for approval of the resolution.
I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
We have, and I will send this to you and submit to the commission formally and any other interested party, but we have completed our statistical data for 2013, and over the past 5 years, we have had a 4,658 911 call increase to our center. And from last year, we entered 143,033 calls for service, which was an increase of 12,295 from 2012. So that was an increase of over 12,000 calls into our 911 center, and that's needs of service from the public. So our requests for service are increasing. The amount of work that our dispatchers are completing is increasing, and I think that falls straight in line with the plans that we've been working on and projecting over the next 5 years.
Very good.
Do you want a picture with Mike with the proclamation?
That'd be good.
As long as I don't have to stand behind it.
Yeah, bend down.
Works.
Mike, break the camera.
We'll have like 10 pictures. It's working? Okay.
Okay, it's working. He took 11 pictures.
We'll autograph it for money, yeah.
What was that to get all of Mike in? Up. This section.
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
John Ranke.
Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. I have two requests to make of you this morning. Both are on behalf of the Monongalia County Development Authority. The first is I'd like you to approve a resolution of support for the Development Authority to apply to the West Virginia Department of Highways / West Virginia Development Office for an additional $100,000 supplemental industrial access road grant that will enable us to complete the corporate drive out at the Chaplain Hill Business Park this year. We've already got $300,000 that have been previously approved. The costs are running higher than the Department of Highways estimated, and they came back to us and suggested going after another $100,000. This is a very similar resolution to many that the commissioners have passed before.
Can you read it? We always, because of the TV, we like it to be read so the people hear it.
I'd be glad to. Diane, is it basically the same as?
Yes, what you said.
Okay. But it's a resolution of support for the construction of Phase 5 of the Industrial Access Road in the Chaplain Hill Business Park, Monongalia County, West Virginia. Whereas the County Commission of Monongalia County is prepared to support appropriate efforts within the community to promote economic development, and whereas it has come to the attention of the County Commission of Monongalia County that the state of West Virginia has an industrial access road grant program to finance industrial access road construction in order to promote economic development for the state, and whereas the Monongalia County Development Authority is developing the 80-acre Chaplain Hill Business Park to better accommodate the location of business and industrial facilities and the creation of quality employment opportunities in Monongalia County and the state of West Virginia, and whereas the Development Authority is applying for a $100,000 fiscal year 2014 supplemental industrial access road grant to be used to construct Phase 5 of the access road in the Chaplain Hill Business Park in order to further develop the park and facilitate job creation efforts, and therefore be it resolved that the County Commission of Monongalia County, West Virginia is hereby lend its support to the efforts of the Development Authority by endorsing their application for industrial road access funds through the West Virginia Development Office in order to provide access roads to the Chaplain Hill Business Park. This resolution in full is effective upon its adoption this day of April 2014.
Move for approval is read.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen. The second request is to request your approval for the Development Authority to expend up to $45,000 of its coal bed methane severance tax revenue sharing account for the extension of water and sewer utility lines out at the Chaplain Hill Business Park. We've had quite a bit of activity out there the last couple of years. We've got like 6 businesses in that park right now, 2 businesses pending, sales contracts pending. The Development Authority has agreed to share in the extension of sewer and water facility lines to these 2 lots. And it would like to utilize its coal bed methane severance tax revenue sharing account to provide the funding. The 2 restrictions on this account is that the funds have to be used for economic development and infrastructure type projects, as these are, and that the county commission approve the use of the funds.
I move we approve the use of those funds.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Unfinished business. Diane.
We have the agreement for the key card access that I think everyone's now agreed on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to thank Gary White, Kerry Blaney, especially Natalie Saul, who represented the lawyers, and then I really appreciate Eldon coming in and finalizing the compromise of the wording. But basically, I think this is an excellent agreement. I think it gets what both parties want, and I ask that it be supported.
I appreciate that, Tom. I changed the to A, and it worked fine.
But whatever you did, got the words.
I appreciate that. It was just a matter of changing the verbiage to make it satisfactory.
I'll move for approval of the agreement regarding the key card access after hours.
Second.
I have a motion for approval and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Did take a little longer than we thought, but we worked everything out.
Okay, request for boundary change, Little Creek Public Service District and Clinton Water, sir.
We talked about this last week in work
Yeah.
session, and I was just bringing it forward for the commission to, if you agree to proceed with this, I'll have the orders ready for a public hearing next week. We can set the date that you can consider that in the near future.
Do we have to set the date today, though, right? And
Well-
advertise it? Or have we already advertised it?
No, we haven't. This is the first time it's come before you.
Okay.
So if you want to set the date a month from now, or I can get everything ready, you can
Right.
act on it next week.
Okay, that's what I was
Just do
asking.
1 month, yeah.
We need a motion, but we need the date. Do you have a date picked?
No.
May 21st, that's 4 weeks from today. 1, 2, 3, or May 14th. whichever.
Probably May 14th
Okay.
would be good.
I move we set a public hearing on the request for boundary change on Little Creek Public Service District and Clinton Water Association for May 14th, 2014
10:30.
at 10:30. Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. New business, Tiger Grant for WVU PRT.
Last year, we were asked by the university to write a letter of support for Tiger Grant. This is to improve the PRT system. Project is going to cost $45.9 million, and it can begin immediately with the approval of the federal government. This is a letter of support that the university is asking to sign.
Move support for the Tiger Grant.
And it doesn't involve any county money.
Yeah.
And I second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Next, requisition for payment number 1, University Town Center TIF.
These are legal expenses related to the TIF that are now eligible to be drawn down from the bonds. Requisition number 1, this is taking the payment from Steptoe and Johnson and dividing it between Series A and Series B and C bonds in the amount of $6,981.24 for each requisition.
Move for approval of requisition of payment number 1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Paving a road at Canaan Adoption Center. Bobby, you want to address that?
Our road's in pretty bad shape over there. That's where they go to get the police cars, and now the assessor's gonna come with 2 more Jeeps, so they'll be going in and out of there every day. We got some pretty bad holes, and we just like to get that road fixed to where we're not tearing up our vehicles. We tear them up enough on state roads.
Have we got a
Not yet.
bid price yet,
We
or?
want to go out, this is to say, yeah, we're gonna go out and advertise.
Is this, are we gonna advertise it in 2 sections, the one part, or is it all state road? Is it all part of the state road system? or-
That's 0.2 miles from River Road up past the recycle center.
That's part of the state road
Yes,
system?
and then from there up is ours.
When you bid it, are you gonna bid it in 2 parts?
I wasn't going to, no.
No, I don't mean separately. I just mean to distinguish between what is ours and what is part of the state road system. Would it make that big a difference? Maybe it would
Well,
make a
talking with them, they're not gonna put no money into it.
Who's not going to?
State,
Well, I haven't talked to him yet.
okay?
Well, the question I would raise is this road if we do this, it's being done because of condition.
Yes.
And our understanding of the road fund is that if this is not connected to any other paving that they're doing, then that doesn't preclude us from doing something. And if it's a state road, then we should have matching funds.
Right. It has an essential, there's an essential county service or need that we're trying to satisfy. the DOH is bound by road count. That's how they gotta go down. And this was one of the key things, is we weren't going to be bound by road count because there are some essential roads to the operation and safety of the public. Like I got one out here that I got from the school board, that the buses can't go down and get those children. Well, when it comes to the state road, because of the way the legislature wrote it, they count how many cars go down and pick up that kid. They don't count whether the bus has space to go down there and turn around. Our road fund's designed to deal that and fill that in. That's why I was thinking that it would be good to separate the state road portion out from the other portion, because then as we look at our road fund, we ought to be able to cover that, because it's this, even though there isn't a lot of people go up there, county vehicles go up there, and the county vehicles getting destroyed, every taxpayer pays out of their pocket for that to be destroyed. So it's a benefit to all the county people.
I agree. I think we need to bid it two separate sections, just for future reimbursement on part of it.
Do you need a motion on that?
Do you want to bid it two ways, or do you just want a price on up to the 0.2 miles on what it would cost, and then the rest of it?
Well, we're looking at doing all the job at one time, but we want to divide how much is part of the state road.
So you really want two prices?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One bid to like A to B and B to
Yeah.
C.
Yeah. Okay. Do we need a motion on that to go to bid?
I move with Dewey go to bid on this paving of the road to the K-9 adoption center. I think it's 45 over 13. Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Reports from the county commissioner. I only have one little thing. Let me get it off the table here.
Okay.
Is I got a call from a resident that lives down at Fort Martin, and about Route 153 that runs down through there, who claims that there's a pothole or potholes, some of which are 1 foot deep, and school buses run on that road. Heaven forbid if anyone tries to take a motorcycle down that road and hit that pothole. Who knows, if it continues to get bigger, we may even lose the school bus. But just for the record, and I think we need to contact Department of Highways and ask them, where's your priority list? We did this as an effort to correct a potentially hazard and dangerous situation with potholes, and we're ready to move, but we need the priority list.
Part of that's my fault, because I told him I'd call him, and I was just so swamped since last week that I just had not had a chance to call him. But I noticed Diane jotted it down, so
okay,
she'll help but call too.
Okay, and I just want to clarify, if someone wants to contribute, they can to this road fund. Just want to make sure that the record's clear. We're not asking anyone to, but if someone wants to contribute, they can. Okay, that's all I have. Eldon, you have it.
I have a very positive thing. We've got our FONSI. That's finding of no significant impact.
Right.
On the interchange on 79 for the town center TIF. That is usually the key element that creates a delay. So that was approved at the end of March. There was a finding that there was no significant impact with the interchange, so it's moving ahead on schedule, and it appears we'll be driving on it in early 2016.
Did you Did you read where the U.S. Department of Transportation guys are going around saying they don't have any money to do anything?
Yeah, they don't have any money. I mean, they've got the same situation, and Congress isn't dealing with it. I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't going to really.
I was worried about the Hartman Run Bridge. I mean, here we.
Right, we were
federal government's going to foot 80% of the bill.
But it's not ours anymore.
No, it's not ours, but I'd still like to see it replaced.
Right, it should be replaced. You know, that's the thing I've been talking about. The thing that I keep talking about is increased gasoline taxes. Gasoline taxes don't work. They don't work anymore. They're trying to move to alternative fuels, trying to move in other directions. They need to come up with a more creative way to raise the funds. And that's a prime example. That I read in that article, and they said, well, they're going back to Congress to try to do a Band-Aid type thing. A Band-Aid's not going to fix it. Dwight David Eisenhower, when he came back from Europe, because of the Europe roads, when he was president, he adopted the interstate highway system concept. And he promoted the idea that if you put enough money in these roads and you develop the roads, the progress, growth, and money to pay for them will come. For the last 20, 30 years, since the days of Ronald Reagan and the first George W. Bush, the government's concept is take away all the money and don't give anyone any money unless they already are successful in an area, and that's just backwards. That's why everything keeps going down. The focus needs to go back to the vision of what our country, our state, our county could be, and invest in that future, and people will come. Sorry. You brought that up. That's something I've been preaching for months. So
Anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Blue.
I have two issues. First, also some real positive news. This county commission has been working on building relationships with other government bodies, and we have a mutual cooperation agreement that I want to make public between the city and the county. And the city manager had requested us the possibility of having our deputies walk the streets down from the courthouse here down to our new judicial building and back, which would help security in downtown Morgantown, with the thanks of the sheriff and the approval of Gary White, who's now organized this. I can say this has started on past Friday, and hourly are taking walks. And I don't know if you want to say anything to that, but basically I just want to thank you, and also this just shows the kind of cooperation we're working, and I think this also helps the city of Morgantown, and they're thrilled too. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, we're doing our check every hour, every half hour.
Okay.
And
documenting it too, you said.
And documenting it, and the sheriff has, in administration, has advised us, since we're only court officers, the proper steps to take if we're confronted with,
Yes.
one down there. So, we're prepared if, we find someone down there, what our options are. So it's going real well right now. Every hour, every hour and a half. Sunny days like this, I have a lot of volunteers. So yeah, but it's we'll continue this until the project's completed.
Good. Thank you very much. The second issue, and I just handed you materials that I'm going to read from. You've not seen this yet. With respect to the powers of the County Commission, the Constitution under Section 11, Article 9, specifically grants the following powers and duties to a county commissioner: the administration of the internal police and fiscal affairs of their counties, with authority to lay county levies on the regulations as may be prescribed by law. I have spent the past several months entertaining numerous questions and concerns about the Board of Education's budget and their levy rates. Now let me make it very clear, or perfectly clear, that the Board of Education does have the legal right to approve their levy rate as they have proposed. My concern is why the Board of Education is setting rates that far exceeds their budgeting needs every year, and this additional surplus from our local levy funds is mandated by law to go outside of the county. While residents support the local school levies, they are under the impression, as was I, that all of these funds will be used only for our local schools, when in fact the majority of the surplus is sent to other counties. Last night, the Board of Education approved a budget where they stated in the paper for several weeks that the current local levy was lowered. However, I share with you, with my documentation, that the current levy rate of .3380 per $100 has not been lowered in the last 5 years. I was informed by the other Monongalia County Commissioners 2 years ago that the Superintendent Devano gave his word to the County Commission that the Board of Education would make their levies revenue neutral. Because of the substantial increase in property assessments to the citizens in 2011, the County Commission significantly lowered their levy rates for 3 years. The Board of Education reneged on their commitment and maintained the levy rates for the past 2 years. This brought in an additional surplus of $3.8 million last year. However, the Board of Education is not permitted to keep all this money, and $2.7 of the million of local revenues were given away to the state tax office. In early February, I personally delivered to a Board of Education member the tax statements showing a surplus of $3.8 million. After receiving this information, the superintendent admitted to the surplus during a board meeting and was quoted in the Dominion Post on February 12, 2014, which I've attached to my documents. And I quote from the article. $2.7 million came from the regular levy, and when that total goes up, the state's allocation to the county decreases. In looking at the current levy rates approved last night, the board has not changed the current levy rate for the past 5 years. It has stayed at .380 per $100 for a Class 2 residence, and the rate doubles for apartments. Last year, from the 2013 levy rates, the board projected $51,436,121 in net taxes to be collected from the current levy and the excess levy. Last night, even with a minor reduction in the excess levy of .044 or 4 cents per $100 and no decrease in the current levy rate, the board will be getting $56 million, $5,979 in net taxes from the current levy and the excess levy. This would be a net increase of $4,569,858 on top of last year's surplus. How much of this extra surplus will be taken away by the state tax office and not be able to be used locally again? Why is the board keeping these extremely high levy rates when they know that $2.7 million of the previous $3.8 million surplus went immediately to the state? Since the levy, the excess levy, the bond, and the entire school budget are fully funded by the residents, why are we taxing the residents an additional $3.8 million more? And now, next year, the possibility of $4 million. Why is the Board of Education maintaining these inflated levy rates when they are aware that we cannot keep these funds locally? As I looked into the budget further, it appears that over $750,000 is taken from our local revenues and given outside to our county to RESA 7. Why? According to Monongalia County's own second month report on file, it appears that over $1.25 million annually from local funds are being used to pay for salaries in the central office. These are administrative positions of people who are either not certified or that the state does not deem necessary to fund. Imagine what our county could do with these additional funds if the local levy did not have to fund these positions. This is also the second year in a row that tens of thousands of dollars are allocated for a retreat for principals and administrators in a hotel resort that is not located in this county. Why is the money not being spent in our local hotels? The difficulty of trying to understand the budget and the Board of Education's expenditures and their actions are compounded because there is no videotapes, no audio tape recordings, or any official recordings of any Board of Education meeting. My concern again is, why are the citizens asked to pay additional taxes when the school system's budget and the levies are fully funded? Why is there a need to tax the citizens $3.8 million additional, of which $2.7 million is not even kept in this county. With these and other concerns, I am worried that future educational levies will be at risk unless we get answers to these important questions. To try and get answers to these important questions, and to fulfill my duties as a commissioner under Section 11, Article 9 of the Constitution, I will be sending a letter to the state auditor, Mr. Glenn Gaynor's office, to request an immediate forensic audit of the Board of Education books. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Well, I got something else here. What did I do with? Okay. Elected officials. Mr. Assessor.
I actually have something.
Oh,
Believe it or not. We're starting something new here beginning next week. Consists of putting together a panel of my staff, kind of my department heads, and we're going to be going out to the community and doing some education forums. We're starting next Thursday at South Middle School, and we're going from 6 to 7 next Thursday evening. And what it'll consist of is kind of the operations of the assessor's office. You know, I have my personal property, business, kind of the minerals, homestead exemption. Then my 2 appraisers at the end will tie up some things on how do we get to your value. It's kind of help. We thought this would be a good idea to kind of educate more and more about the operations of that. So we're doing 2 this month. Next Thursday from 6 to 7 we'll be at South Middle. And the following Wednesday, April 30th, I think that is, we'll be at Brookhaven Community Building there from 6 to 7 also. So those are 2 of our events to see how those get started. And hopefully do another one in the summer and tie another one into the fall. So we're hoping to do and continue again next year. So.
very good.
Great idea.
Very good. No other elected officials. Department heads. Diane?
I have one other thing. This is an agreement from Comcast that our clerk has asked that the commission sign, allowing Comcast to enter the premises to do some cable work. And they've talked to Bobby and Jeff, I believe, on this.
Okay.
They okay?
As owner of the building, yeah.
Any problem with that?
I met with Jeff yesterday, me and Carlos, so Jeff, you can tell him what's going on.
Yeah, we're okay with their doing the work.
Okay. You need us to approve it?
Yes.
Move for approval for the and for the president to sign the letter of approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You need to sign right here. I'm conditioned to little arrows pointing toward it.
This works.
Yes.
Bobby, anything?
Yes, sir.
Renetta? Jamie?
No, sir.
Ben? Janet? Can't get anybody to say anything. Channel 12, Channel 5,
Gary.
West
Gary,
TV, Gary.
Nothing.
Comments from the public. Do we have any public here? No public here. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion for adjournment and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned.